See, it rings on like a basketball player. Freshman of the year like a basketball player. What it do, cuz, man, I'm here to stay. Aw, man, cuz, man, we in your fade. Hey.
Otis Williams Jr., aka OJ the Juiceman, born November 23, 1981. Today's feature is one of the best examples what can happen as an artist when you don't quite understand the business you're jumping into, armed with only talent and a need to change your circumstances. Nowadays, there's much more information being shared with one another, so at least artists are or should be aware of the pitfalls to look out for. But back in the mid-2000s and pretty much throughout the decade, many artists were going into the business of music with their face against a wall, arms out in submission to be taken for everything they had and even will accumulate in the future. If everything from Juiceman's account of how his career fell off is 100% accurate, then his story is beyond unfortunate, unable to claim rights to his biggest songs for the remainder of his natural life and 10 years after he dies. Meaning someone didn't even want his kids to eat more than the crumbs, literally, of his intellectual property remaining from his best work, his first album, The Other Side of Trap, released in 2009. To make matters even that more ruthless, the conditions under which he signed those deals were never not even 50% in his favor and may possibly be one of the worst deals in hip-hop history. In the mid-2000s, the South, in particular Texas and Atlanta, were dominating the rap game in their biggest surge in rap music, having everything from house party snap music, street music about finally getting some money and shining through material possessions, or hardcore trap music being introduced to the world as a day-to-day look into the life of a street guy with nothing but a stove, Pyrex, and a will to make it out a poor environment by any means. Trap music gets confusing when talking about who started it, but rappers like T.I., Young Jeezy, and Gucci Mane emerged to the forefront of popularity for that sound during that time and beyond. Underneath them, you had guys coming up like Shorty Low, Waka Flocka, and of course OJ the Juiceman about to emerge as the next wave of trap. Juice was already making a way for himself alongside Gucci, so when the So Icy Man himself blew up, OJ was up next and everyone wanted to know who he was. He drops Make the Trap Say A in 2008, along with featuring on Gucci Mane's Bricks, which took OJ to the next level. But soon as it went up, things came crashing down as a result of bad business foundation, and OJ was never able to find lightning in a bottle ever since, until he got tired of the process and just left. You've heard of bad label situations, but for these reasons, this may be the worst. 3 reasons OJ the Juiceman's growth was stunted. Salute to 5020SB for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. OJ the Juiceman is a rapper from East Atlanta that always felt he had the talent to be a star. He grew up in the same neighborhood as Gucci Mane and both knew of each other through the music. As they got older and began pursuing a music career, OJ is locked up and pleads out to boot camp. Upon returning home, his sisters hand him a Gucci Mane mixtape called Trap House, which turned out to be the tape that put Gucci on the map locally, and right then, Juice knew he had to take things more serious, since he could see success right there. If Gucci could do it, then so could I. Gucci would continue to rise, and not far behind, Juice was making a name for himself as well. But OJ still had one foot in the streets, which was paying a lot more than music. While at his first show in Virginia, he had a health scare and learned he had type 2 diabetes, placing him in the hospital for treatment. Deb Anthony, Waka Flocka's mom and Mizé Entertainment owner, made a play on Juice to sign him along with other bidders, and this was where the story went left. Stunt number 1, not understanding the business of music. The first move that didn't go as planned for OJ when he finally decided to entertain the thought of a label was he knew nothing about the industry he was getting into, and in the end, it got the best of him. In OJ's defense, the mid-2000s was a new experience for the music business as far as rap starting to accumulate a lot more money than it did in the 90s, so many artists were being promised whatever they wanted to hear to get them under contract, then robbed in things like 360 deals, where everything you make as an artist, a high percentage is kicked back to the label in unfair amounts, sometimes profiting more than the artist. Also, most these artists were uneducated street guys who weren't experienced with legal lingo and fine print, even the sense to know not to be without legal counsel when doing deals that have lifetime and afterlife consequences. Rap artists in that time would have done just about anything to get on in music and join the new wave of how the rap game was booming, especially for Southern artists, even better if you were from Atlanta. While in the hospital, Deb and Mazay Entertainment approached Juiceman about signing a label deal with them and finally getting out the streets and living a legal and more healthy life. OJ initially declined since he was getting money in the streets. A week later, during a failed robbery, he was shot 8 times and put in the hospital again. Deb Anthony approaches him a second time, all according to Juice himself, and offers him again, leaning on him being shot and being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes now that it grew worse. He promises when he got out the hospital he'd sign because he just wanted out the streets at that point. He's released and goes up to Mazay Entertainment to sign the deal. According to him, he even said he didn't read the deal because he trusted the word of Deb Anthony. He also didn't have a lawyer present nor one after to look at his deal. He begins doing shows and noticing 50% of the money was going back to the label each show, along with royalties from his first album he released in 2009. Frustrated with not seeing the money he expected, he fell back into the streets and didn't put out another album until 2014, when his career was pretty much over as far as potential. Stunt number 2, no label focus. Deb Anthony has always fought back against OJ's accounts of misleading him when he was vulnerable after being shot and diagnosed with diabetes to sign a faulty deal that put him in a bad situation as far as money owed to him then and forever. But she does admit that she didn't put as much focus in Juiceman as she did for people like Gucci Mane, Nicki Minaj, or her son Waka Flocka. Said she should have noticed he needed more attention and give it to him, and to that I agree. OJ was, if nothing else, different. His style was completely unique in sound, plus he to this day had some of the best ad-lib talent in the game. It's something he and Gucci became known for back in the day as really their signature, but OJ never seemed pushed like Gucci Mane and others under Mazay management, even though he was the only one officially signed to Deb's label as an artist. Says it's her one regret on her journey, not pushing OJ out there more. OJ was prolific at dropping mixtapes around 2009, many of which should have been pushed as albums, like Alaska and Atlanta and 6 Rings, some of his best work in my opinion. I still remember Alaska and Atlanta being the go-to turn-up cuts driving or at the house parties. He was likable and unique enough to be a star, just didn't get the push when he was hot. Stunt number 3, lightning in a bottle twice. Lastly, OJ made a huge mistake to compound the bad deals he signed early on by stepping away almost completely, besides dropping mixtapes from 2009 to 2014 and then beyond. Of course, after learning he was in a bad deal, Juice wanted out. He says part of his get out clause was to give up rights to his first album that had all his hits and original beats to the label, owned by them for the rest of his life and 10 years after he dies. Instead of fighting it in court, he signed the trade-off deal thinking, hey, I got myself hot, I can do it again. It rarely works like that, although it has in rap's past. Look at 2 Chainz, formerly Titty Boy, Shorty Low, originally a snap rapper, even Juicy J, from horrorcore to turn-up party music. But for Juice, he didn't have the foresight to see he needed to stay in the face of the masses. He fell back from music and hit the streets again and was shot at once again. In 2014, he released another album and a slew of mixtapes last in 2021, but hasn't been able to catch that lightning in a bottle he had mid-2000s when he should have blown up and be sitting back right now instead of still trying to get on and find another situation. All in all, I feel bad for how things played out for Juice because he seems like a straight up person who just trusted the closest people to him, which turned out not to work out. Deb has also claimed some of his accounts were wrong and she never knowingly robbed him of anything in business. Whatever the case, OJ was supposed to be huge and is still a legend in his own way, but for these reasons, musically, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.